Good morning, Yasha Allah. 12 tribes scattered to the four winds, as it were, scattered abroad all over this earth that we live upon, as prophesied in the book of Luke, chapter 21, by Hamashiach, our King himself. Matter of fact, we're bringing you this word by the order of our King from his book, the revelation of Hamashiach, which Allah Yahweh gave to him to show unto his servants matters that must shortly come to pass, or matters that are coming to pass quickly. And I think all and sundry would agree that such is the case right now. All over the earth, people are looking with rapt attention to the signs of the time and events that are happening worldwide. And some know exactly what time it is, and the others playing the fool. But Yasha Allah, we are told in the book of Keppah, we call the book of Peter, we are told to be sober and vigilant, because our adversary, Gadriel, mentioned in the book of Anuk, the one who saw the watchers, that Gadriel came down in the midst of the watchers that asked him to plead the Most High for them. As we have Esau now setting up himself under the banner of his boss, Gadriel, Satan, to come and seek to make dictation to us, and we should soften up our view concerning him, whereas he had nothing but blood and gore for us for 400 years. And so we bring you this short word on behalf of our high priest, our king, the one who laid down his life for us. We begin with our opening text that's in Revelation 17 in verse 13, that says, "These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast." We say it again for emphasis and confirmation. These have one mind, and shall give their power unto the beast. So as we begin to put this title in context, the title of this word, we're looking at all who have partaken in the matter of enslaving the 12 tribes so brutally, in a way that is unprecedented to the time, up to the time of the 400 years enslavement. And I guess it must be obvious that no one else can match that 400 years enslavement exercise that Esau, matter of fact, actually Amalek has undertaken and was successful in bringing it across. What we have as the main feature of the 400 years debacle was the preceding matter of the crucifixion of Hamashiach. That was according to the declaration of Esau during the time of the birthright offering, which he refused and became upset when the Most High in turn offered it, the birthright that is, unto Yaquab. Okay, so he was offered this birthright, didn't want it, threw it away, spat on it, and the scriptures tell us in Bereshit that he despised it. But here now, and for some hundreds of years, going back to the Greek exercise of the enslavement of Yasharahla by ships, as recorded in Deuteronomy. They pull it off in ships. And so we see as what they have proposed to do today, as according to the book of Anuk, what was done in the old days. Around the time of Anuk, you had the people who were under the gun, so to speak, under the whip of payback. They were about to experience payback because in Noah's day, near the time of Anuk, they were asked to enter the ark for safety, and they refused. They laughed at the old man and called him some of those names they called him. Now we wouldn't mention here. They were indeed despicable, and they're making fun of Noah. But oh boy, the floods that Noah warned of really did come. Oh yes, it came. And there was mayhem among the population. According to the book of Anuk. Oh yes. And our own scriptures that have been attempted at diluting and worked down to hide its teaching. But like, according to the days of Noah, as referenced by Anuk, the same thing is about to break upon us, upon the world. And so the book of Anuk was offered to us as the book for the last days. Give us a reminder that we are in a time when we have to offer a like word of warning to the whole earth. I don't know if it's okay to mention that Esau is really the pinnacle of the world as such, in terms of the oppositional force that he brings to the conversation. For it was his intention in his rejection of the birthright that he must kill Jacob. Um, and we see that in Amalek, he has brought this prophecy to pass. I want to mention one item that might be of interest. I think that I have not seen in the scriptures where Esau was buried, or where there was a procession, a funeral procession for Esau. Maybe I have overlooked it and I've got to look again. But I make mention of it in case my observation is right, that there are others of Yasha who could maybe look about as I will look about to see if my observation is correct. Amalek, of course, his bastard son, was awarded the reins of leadership, ultimate leadership, among Esau's dukes and kings and leaders. And we see that Amalek chief intention has been to get rid of the Mashiach, which he pulled off under his generalship and Pilate and Herod. These were Amalek. Indeed. But look at what is said here in Revelation chapter 13 and verse 4. Well, let's take it up to verse 3. Revelation 13, verse 3. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And the verse under consideration is verse 4. And they worshiped the dragon. Get that now. All the world wonders after the beast. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? So here we see the world at large, as it were, giving honor to the beast and proclaiming power under the beast. Who is able to make war with him? The beast we know, I think we know, many of us do know, and the rest of us have to catch up with knowledge. The beast is Rome, led by Amalek, the bastard son of Esau. And Amalek has of late put up a name, as it were, a new name for his people as rulers in the earth. The original name was Rome, the country, Romans, people. That's Amalek, old name, Romans. It is Amalek, the Romans who wrote the Nicene Creed, in which he states concerning the Messiah that he was crucified under Pontius Pilate. These are the words of Amalek, the words of Rome, for the heavens to survey and for the earth to take note of. These are Rome, Amalek's own words, written in stone, if you will, for the world to see. I really don't see how Esau, Amalek, and Rome could get out of the charge of their doing. But they have boldly sought to exonerate themselves, so much so that, like the experience of Anuk was in the old days, where all the disobedient and rebellious ones wanted to come to Anuk and have him plead for them that they could come into the ranks of the obedient and righteous ones. It's the same thing we have going on today as we look towards the end of Esau's world and Esau's reign, his kingdom. Their king, their leader, on their behalf, has come towards the 12 tribes and presenting himself as an authority unto the 12 tribes to say, we need you to back down of your plan of that sealing business. We need you to back down off that and include my people, include Esau, see them too. That's the deal that Esau has got in his mind. Seal me too. Seal me, Father. Bless me too. Remember his word to Father Yishak upon them being shown that he was not to receive the birthright. In fact, he himself rejected it. But as the realization set in upon him, he wanted to plead ignorance of his own declaration and his own despising of the birthright. He wanted to pull that back. And so, likewise, with all the atrocities that he has done to the 12 tribes, as we draw near to the end of the age and Esau's world, he would like to pull it back. he would like to say, guess. Um, um, we can use the English way of speaking. That's Esau. That's Amalek. We could use their way of speaking. And so I'd say, we're sorry. We didn't mean that. After destroying a, up to this time, I believe, countless number of people of Yasha Allah itself and nations around the earth, they have slaughtered without any remorse, without any care. And now that the time of reckoning is coming for them, but they didn't believe there could be a reckoning coming for them because Gabriel, Satan, has put it in their mind that he was going to shield them from any harm that threatened them. This was this was in the pact that Gabriel made with them way back when they decided that they were going to become his people. And he told them, yes, indeed. But if you want to be my people, you got to throw away manhood and womanhood and take on homosexuality and lesbianism. This is where what they call the idea they started being across, but radical, how do they call it? Uh, race theory. The avowed race theory that Esau is pushing forward now. He wants to push forward a master plan race theory that he wants the world to acknowledge. And he thinks he got something to say after telling the world that we desire of you, particularly under the 12th tribe, we desire of you to be homosexuals and lesbians. And they want that to fly. They think it could fly. They feel sure that with all the conquests that they have had in the earth, they could make that to fly. And this is what we have come to battle against. So with all his conquests, Esau himself says on behalf of his king, Gabriel, Satan, the devil, worshipping the dragon, the devil, and Satan, according to Revelation chapter 12. And this dragon gave power to them, to the beast. That is Rome. That is Amalek. And they worship this beast. People worship this beast. Rome, America, England, and all of Esau's kingdoms around the world where they rule. Oh yeah, they have their dukes and their kings ruling in pockets around the world, different nations. That's how they were ruling. It was all their dukes, as you see in the book of Bereshith, Genesis, chapter 36, I believe it is. They had all their dukes and their kings ruling in different areas of the world. And we were thinking that it was one. We say, well, we would say it was one nation. Yeah, it was one nation, but there were many dukes in this nation. It wasn't one single individual, as we might have thought and tried to make it our belief wasn't one individual. It was the number of the dukes of Edom, of Esau, that were ruling the earth. So they were set down in different areas of the earth, ruling over a national um, government. But Amalek became the chief of them all, as he was connected to the Horite blood and the Horite demons. So he had the he had that conviction of of, of rulership and power to present to the people that came directly from Satan. And so they all gave into his rulership. I mean, when you look at Hitler, the mighty Hitler, in his rulership in Germany, with his Third Reich, there wasn't anybody in his day who doubted that Hitler would pull off what he said he would do. Well, he was a part of Amalek, or Esau's hierarchy of kings and dukedoms. Hitler was. So is Stalin. So is Brezhnev. So is the king of masonry. What was his name? Albert Pike. Esau. With their braggadocious view of being the mighty conquerors, full of demons. That's what it was. But we're looking here at again to our opening verse in chapter 17 of Revelation. These have one mind, Revelation 17 and 13, and shall give their power and the strength unto the beast. We talk about Rome. We talk about all that represents Rome. Amalek was the chief of all the dukes. Those who came before him, who were born before him, once he came on the scene, and his father mated with the Horite daughter and brought forth Amalek. It changed the scenery. And so therefore, Amalek was the one who stepped forward on the scene to be the chief ruler among all the dukes. And they all gave way to his command, like the dukes and kings of Edom in general gave in to Hitler himself. Remember that? You remember the story of Adolf Hitler? Heil Hitler? You remember him? And Stalin and Brezhnev and on and on and on. Dukes of Edom. That's who they were. And that's who they are until they be taken out of the way, according to the Revelation. So when we're looking at um, from an in-depth point of view of the beginnings of the 400 years enslavement of the 12 tribes, we have seen, according to the prophecies, as expressed in Bereshith, Genesis chapter 15, between the verses 12 to 14. It is stated in the prophecy that Yasharahla will be under strict and unbending slavery. 400 years. They stated it. And it surely came to pass that Amalek, who posted himself in Greece and thereafter went to Misraim, to Egypt, and colluded with Egypt concerning their knowledge of slavery, as they had enslaved the 12 tribes some years before, even after the Mosai allowed his 12 tribes to save Mitzrayim, save the Pharaoh, without any grudge, handed them, that political salvation on a platter. Save Mitzrayim. They turned around to slaughter 12 tribes. And so the Most High brought them out because now he was going to set the 12 tribes up to begin their reign as rulers in the earth. What I like to note again, as in the previous lesson, that in the commencement of slavery that started on or in Haiti in the French Revolution, Napoleon, that there came forth out of the priesthood by that time, or this time, referring to Haiti, the Haitians. The Haitian priesthood, the Levitical priesthood of the scriptures, colluded, teamed up with Satan's Amalek Jesuit priesthood, and they hatched a plan together for the enslavement of the 12 tribes. And lest we forget, when we check into the records of slavery, we find that Shimeon, or Simeon, so-called regularly, Simeon was a leader in what is called the Arab enslavement of the tribes of Yasharahla, who are called the Dominicans in the Dominican Republic, on the same island with the foreign Levites, the Haitians. The Dominicans, whose biblical name is Simeon or Shimeon, they were intimately, directly involved in pushing the enslavement of the 12 tribes as their brother, the Haitian Levites, had become the precursor, the beginning of slavery. So Simeon, the Dominican Republic are not guiltless. They were of the leadership, driving, pushing, pulling the course of slavery. And so for our newly awakening Yahrulites, it is necessary for you to know your enslavement taskmasters and Levi, so-called Haitians, who were the priests of the scriptures. There's a book named after them in the Bible. Levi and his brother, who are called Dominicans today. We say in the bastard English, Simeon. I believe it is Shimeon. In any case, these two brothers, as the scripture says in Genesis chapter 49, that they would be brethren. But they were already brethren, so, what's the deal with being brethren again? They two would be near together, inhabiting one island mass, one land mass together. Each one of them dominating a portion or generally half of the island that they were put on by Esau. The Haitians on one side and the Dominicans, Simeon on the other side. They too, the two of them, provided the impetus for the beginning of the enslavement of the 12 tribes. So you who are newly coming in to the knowledge of your heritage as Yahrulites, as of the 12 tribes, you can know your history. That your own brethren, Levi and Simeon, the Haitians and the Dominicans on one land mass, took to the beginning to begin the slave trade and handed it to the French, to Napoleon and his people. They made a covenant that they would sacrifice of Yaquab to seal that covenant. And this is why today the Haitians are charged with a fee in the conduct of doing or exercising their military might in the French Revolution. And France, Amalek, who's part of the beast that we're looking at here in Revelation 13, 14, and so on. They figure prominently in the beast system because they started the slavery, the enslavement of the 12 tribes. Well, there were 10 tribes when those two were. When you take that two out to be the precursor of 400 years enslavement, and then you have 10 tribes left to work it out for themselves. You get a picture now of what we have been dealing with. And so, as it was then, in the beginning of slavery, that Levi and Simeon, we say now, They were the beginners of the enslavement of the 12 tribes. Today, Levi and Simeon have little regard for the rest of the tribes. You make contact with them and start if you want to, you can start the conversation, but you listen to them in respect of any conversation that mentions the tribes of Yahweh, Judah, the leader, and the other tribes. They get really heated to let you know that in their mind, in their psyche, is embedded the hatred against the Mashiach and against the rest of the tribes. Well, you might say, well, how are we going to work out our differences and come to a point of reconciliation? That's the work of the Mashiach. That's why he laid his life down by the blood of his stake and the power of the resurrection and the pervading influence of the Ruach, as it says in Zechariah, not by might, not by power, but by my Ruach, says Yahweh of hosts, who shall accomplish what his design is for his people. We know already, again in the book of Zechariah, that 2/3 of the 12 tribes who were part of the cradle of the Mashiach, they were born in one cradle. The Mashiach, who was crucified by Amalek, the Mashiach and the 12 tribes were born to one cradle. Wherefore, the scripture says he's not ashamed to call them brethren, because they were born in one cradle of the flesh. He's of the house of David, of Yahweh, or locally called Judah. But according to the Ruach, the Son of the Most High, Sheikh Ataba. With all authority and power in him to bring everything together as Yahweh the Most High needs it. And so to the brethren who are waking up, giving you a brief course in your history, the history of slavery was started by your brothers. The Levites were called the Haitians. And Simeon, who was called the Dominicans. They were the big shots in your enslavement, in my enslavement. So we are to be in much prayer for the guidance and direction of the Ruach as we move toward the end of Esau's world and the beginning of the world of Yaakov, that the book of the Apocrypha tells us that Esau was the end of the world, but Yaakov is the beginning of it that follows. In the name of the Most High Yahweh, Mashiach, our high priest and mother, in the blessed Ruach, we say, Shalom.